Oh gosh, Lauren, I don't know what. I don't know. I got nothing, girl.
It's okay because I always have a backup plan, and that backup plan is and always will be boobs.
She's showing me that cover, that Dazzler. I love it. I love every minute of it.
The best cover. Listen, I totally respect everybody has their own favorite covers they get for every issue, but if you didn't get the Dazzler variant for Judgment Day #6, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like, I don't know how you resist that. I don't care what your sexuality is. I don't care if you buy physical comics normally or not. How do you resist this cover?
I agree. It is gorgeous. And one of these days I'm going to cosplay as Dazzler. It's on my list for sure.
Yes!
I just gotta tone up the body a little bit, make it a little bit.
Girl, how many times do I have to tell you? You already have the body. You just need the right accessories and dressing, because that's what it is. Listen, Dazzler, okay, she looks good, but she doesn't look good because she's in the best shape of her life or anything, even though, again, she looks good. I'm not saying she's not in good shape, guys. Calm down. But, like, she looks good because she presents herself. She's got the confidence. She sets her presentation up, which is her body and her clothes and everything, and she's ready to go. So you just gotta be ready to go.
Well, I'm always ready to go. I just need to, like, tighten and tone just a little, just a stitch.
I'm gonna tighten and tone this attitude about yourself. You are simply amazing. You already have it.
Oh my god, girl. Oh my god, girl. Okay, welcome to my weekly therapy session. I save money. I save money this way by having Lauren just compliment me, and I just eat them all up. Like, no. I love those compliments.
Listen, anyway. However you take all the compliments in is fine by me, because it means I don't have to compliment myself. So, haha, diversion.
And that's what I'm for, because welcome everybody back to Simply Amazing. I am Lisa, aka the OG Nocturne, and before me is this beautiful woman. This is not a girl. This is, as Britney Spears once said, not a girl, but yet a woman. I'm changing the lyrics, but yet a woman.
Was that her or was that Christina Aguilera? It must have, I'm gonna go with you and say it was Britney.
Girl.
Listen, I know I slipped. I slipped. But I had to make sure.
Never argue with me about Britney, because I will school you every time.
See, and this is why you are, like, not only such a great ally, but you fit in with the gays so well. You may not be, but your love for Britney already makes you basically a part of the family. Like, that's how it is.
I mean, I love Britney. I love Goldie Hawn. I love Cher. Oh my god, I love Cher. Like,
icon.
I should have been born a man so I could be a drag queen. Anyway, Lauren, I need to show you something before we get started, because we're going to talk about Judgment Day #6, but I need to show you something. I started a craft today.
Okay.
I started making these little things. I just lost one. And I decided that I would make a necklace craft, if you can see it. That's Kurt's
bulge. Didn't you put pictures on Twitter?
I did. I tweeted them. That's Kurt's bulge in a Speedo, and there's Superman's butt.
I need 10 of those. Start an Etsy shop, girl. You're going to make so much money. We pay for sex. Listen, I know we're all like, sex should be the thing that sells. Even I'm like that, okay? But, like, sex sells and I'm a whore. I will take one of each.
I gotta be honest. I might have to keep Kurt's bulge in a Speedo, but you know what? For the right bidder, it might go. Who knows? We'll see. I'll figure out what I'm going to do with it. I'll tell you right now. If we end up getting a table at Uncanny X-Men, the Uncanny Experience, I'll be selling them there. But yeah, I'm very excited about it. I made like 100 of them today, and I've ordered like 1,000 more, so I really am excited. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Judgment Day.
But you distracted me with Kurt's bulge. What the hell, Lisa?
All right. I will put Kurt's bulge away. So it's not a distraction.
You took the candy away. Why would you do that to me? It's Halloween.
I'll just hold it up in front of the screen, and you can just stare
iconic.
At it and pretend like Kurt's bulge.
Seriously.
Pretend like Kurt's bulge.
That should be like half the merch we sell. It's just pictures of Kurt's butt and bulge and tail. And beard. Lord. Can't forget his beard.
Hey, Lord, I'm Kurt's bulge.
I hope it doesn't talk like that. Otherwise, I might need some earplugs. I'll still full of it.
It probably does talk just like Tommy Lee's dick talked in Pam and Tommy, but
Jesus,
we are so fucking off the rails. Let's get back to it. We're going to talk about Judgment Day #6, where everything finally comes together, and guess what? Spoiler alert: the heroes win. Much thanks to our boy.
Of course,
so, Lauren,
of course they do. Like, how you can't have an event like this end and the heroes don't win somehow. Like, this wasn't going to be that life changing and like completely resetting the entire universe. I know some people were theorizing that it might reset Krakoa for the X-Men. No, absolutely not. Krakoa's got another 1 to 5 years at least in my head, but that's just me.
And the only one who should reset Krakoa is Krakoa.
Correct.
The only way that I want a reset of Krakoa is Krakoa being like, I'm done with these bitches living on me, and starts eating them. Nom, nom, nom.
Is that the theme of today's episode? Nom, nom, nom.
Nom, 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 nom. Yes, that's the theme of today's episode. Eat them up, Krakoa. Just start. Who would he start with? Who's a snack? Oh god, they're all snacks.
A snack? I don't know. I think Sinister would be a good snack.
Do you know what though? Here's the thing. You know who he's going to start with, and I hate this, is Kyle. Can't defend himself.
Poor Kyle. Kyle can't fucking win.
He can't defend himself, and he's like living there. And I guarantee Kyle is spending his days being like counting down the minutes of like, when is all this going to just fucking crumble around us? Because like Kyle knows the way the world works better than anyone else, and he's just like, this is going to go to hell, and I'm going to be the one getting eaten.
Oof. It's a big oof.
Yeah.
Well, all that said, again, there's no crazy, everything has changed forever kind of switch here, except one thing that we'll get to. There's one kind of bigger thing that comes into play, and it does have to do with the resurrection protocols, which makes sense to me because there's so much emphasis on that and the fact that everybody in the world knows about them now. So that had to get addressed. But one thing that was interesting about this issue was how much it relied on the big celestial that was doing the attacking. It revolved on it having feelings, basically, in the end. Like, in the end, it kind of felt some empathy, and that's basically what made everything working possible. And that empathy, I think, a lot of that came from Ajax.
The whole situation with Ajax and with the Celestial, it reminds me a lot of, like, Vulcans and Spock and, like, those kinds of people who only work in logic, and it's very hard to get to them emotionally and to obviously the Celestial was not going to have an emotional response to anything. He wasn't going to, like, he doesn't care that people are upset and dying and crying. It's like, it's everything for him is quantifiable, and you had to speak to him on that level. And I think that's what Ajax does, is she speaks to him on a level of like, how can you be my god and do these things? And how can, all this, which kind of breaks his brain a little bit. You can see, the smoke coming out of his ears, and he's like, error.
Right.
404. So I thought that was really interesting. I liked how they incorporated that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And essentially, Ajax kind of molds to the Celestial and becomes this higher being, which we'll get to as we talk more about this. But I wanted to just talk about, before we get to the actual further of the plot and what happens with the resurrection stuff at the end, just some favorite moments, because there's a lot of action that happens here. There's not a lot of plot through a lot of the issue. It's just building up to the big moment with the Celestial and Ajax and these decisions. One of my favorite moments was that panel with Kurt and Steve Cap. He teleports him in, and Steve is like, listen, it's not too late to stop. You can surrender. This is your last warning. And one thing I noticed about this panel that's odd to me, and I don't know if I'm hoping this was an intentional creative choice, because that's a letterer's job, but the lettering on that panel is completely different than the entire rest of the lettering of the issue. It's so much bigger. It's got that bold print kind of around the speaking bubbles and stuff, the text bubbles. I mean, it's just ridiculous how different, and ridiculous doesn't mean bad. It's just shockingly different than the rest of the lettering throughout this issue that is very, smaller print. Even the stuff between the Celestial and black and red versus people in white and black, it still looks the same other than the color scheme. Here, it's just so out there. And I'm kind of like, is this to show how loud Steve's yelling? But it's also weird because typically to show that with letterers, they do like the zigzag lines around it instead of just bolding the circle. So I'm not sure what the choice was here, like what the reasoning was behind that, but it makes a statement of some sort.
I think it is intentional. I don't know if it's just a matter of the way they had to make it look so that it could be legible. But I could see it. I mean, I didn't even notice it until you brought it up, but I could almost see it as like a point of desperation, because they've done so much. And they've tried so much, and they just keep throwing things at the Celestial, and literally nothing has worked yet. Like, just nothing has worked. Everything they've tried has not worked, which is why eventually they decide to reason with him, and that actually works incredibly.
Yeah, and upsetting to me. So I know we're supposed to say favorite moments, but I have to point out Tony Stark has a good moment here with Jean, and I am mad about it because I hate him. But whatever, he's got some hope, and he's like, we have to try, and so he inspires them to continue trying even when things seem hopeless, blah, blah, blah. But then Jean does so much work in this issue. And as somebody who loves Jean, even when everybody else hates her for reasons I still don't understand, I'm living for it. I love seeing her in the spotlight, and there ain't no other man, behind her, in front of her. It is just Jean doing her damn thing. Good for her.
Just Jean. I like that. Hashtag just Jean. I love Jean. I'm a big Jean fan. I love her. And by the way, going back to the Tony thing, like, give the guy a break, just like he says to Steve at the end of the issue. Just let him have this one. I will let him have this one thing. I'll never let Hank before I have anything.
See,
Tony, I'll let him have this one.
See, I was gonna not bring that up until later, but since you brought it up, I am glad to talk about it because I love that scene at the end where after all this crazy shit, Tony and Steve are talking. Tony's like, hey man, just let me have this shit. And again, here's the thing with Steve. Steve will give anybody anything. He is so understanding. He's so empathetic. He doesn't care. Sure, take it. Whatever makes you happy, peeps. I am here to help. But with Tony fucking Stark, he will tell that man no all goddamn day long. And it makes me so happy. Because even there, he's just like, essentially, fuck off, Tony. Like, no, I won't give it to you. And honestly, he's right. Absolutely not, Tony. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, I mean, I like that Steve is kind of like, it was part you. Of course it was okay with you. It was you.
Right. No, I love that. Okay, listen. I love seeing that we kind of see that because the Celestial is flawed, that's a huge part of the Celestial kind of getting empathy as well and things like that, is the Celestial is flawed. They think they're so logical, like you said, Lisa, like, Spock on Star Trek and Vulcans and such. But the thing is that you're not, because you're made by a human. You're made by fucking Tony. And part of this Celestial is Tony, who is, whether you love him or not, you can love the man. That's fine. I don't agree, but it's fine. But he is so flawed, right? And so that's going to be evident in the Celestial no matter what. And it's funny because I'm looking at the page here where we kind of see the Celestial break down and everything finally starts to kind of close with the Celestial, where he's talking to, I think it's Ajak, right? Yeah. And he goes, I have given up everything to save everyone. You are my maker, Ajak. Am I worthy God? And she just says no and gives him a fucking thumbs down. Mm-hmm. And he goes, you're correct. I ask you if this be better. And to me, that's also a very Tony Stark-like death. Like, this would be a great death for Tony Stark. If this were Tony Stark, I would like to see this for him because he is realizing all his flaws and the consequences of that and the fact that he isn't better than everybody else like he tends to think he is. And then he accepts the judgment, right? I feel like this could possibly... Maybe this is just being hopeful, but this could lead to an actual redemption of his character over the next couple of years, and this could kind of foreshadow his own kind of judgment and growth in character over the years. That's just me being super hopeful, though. I'm probably reaching, but I mean, that stands out.
Yeah, I don't really care about Tony Stark at all. So, I mean, if he gets better or worse, I won't notice. But I will say, though, I know enough about Tony to know little things. And so Tony is an addict. Tony's an alcoholic. And I think that a lot of what we see being played out with the Celestial is like an addict's journey to kind of recovery, where you start out like as I'm not talking about me specifically, but like addicts in general, when they're recovering, they start out as, thinking they know everything and that they try to hold control of everything, right? They're trying to be in control. And that's a big part of the addiction, is being in control. And it takes that moment of, and there's that, like the 12-step saying about giving your life up or giving yourself over to a higher power and everything. And it takes that moment of realizing that you are not in control and that, you have to humble yourself. And that's exactly what this Celestial does. I don't know if this was intentional and supposed to be kind of like an addict's, like a like a correlation to Tony's own addiction issues, but I just thought it was interesting that the Celestial kind of goes through that moment of thinking he's in control, thinking he knows better, thinking he knows everything, and then he's humbled by Ajax, and then he has to turn himself over to a higher power, which becomes Ajax, right? So I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I can see that those parallels you're drawing there. I really just love the overall themes too with, I mean, almost like what makes a god, right? Mm-hmm. Like he said, am I a worthy god? And so this shows that even gods can be judged. And I think that's a huge theme that can be, like our friend Mason for Comics and Crosses, he was on here a while ago. He really looks at, religion through the Christian lens and stuff on his YouTube channel, which is really cool stuff, even if you're not Christian, because I'm not, but I find it fascinating, his takes. And I don't know, I might have to bother him and be like, hey, will you talk about this? Because, I mean, the fact that, many religions, focus on, like this God can judge us all, we don't judge them. Well, why not? Why do the people not also hold their gods or their leaders accountable? So I think that's very fascinating to see here. And I think it's just cool because this event has really shown that humanity wins no matter what. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a mutant, whether you're a god, whether you're human, whether you have super soldier serum, whether you're just tired of existing and just want to go home and eat dinner with your husband, wife, whoever, humanity's always going to win in the end. I mean, I compromise this other being, who's supposed to be a god, who's a celestial, who's machine, who's Tony, who's whatever else. It's just crazy. So yeah, I really enjoyed all those themes here. And basically with that said, that celestial basically, it looks like merges with Ajax. So now she is Ajax Celestia, once eternal, ever eternal. I am your new god, Makari. So she's essentially in charge of the Eternals more than ever, I think.
Can I just say, Ajax Celestia is a phenomenal drag name.
Oh my god, you're so right. Somebody call dibs on it. Somebody call dibs.
Ajax Celestia, that is brilliant drag name. I love it. That's the one thing I want to bring up is the only characters, the only team that has real changes to their status quo are the Eternals. But I think that has to do with, like, nobody really gives a shit about the Eternals. Let's be real. You know what I mean? If they had irrevocably changed one of the X-Men, everybody would have lost their goddamn mind. But,
well, they did change X-Men stuff, though. That's, I was going to say.
They changed X-Men stuff, but they didn't, it's not like they took it's not like they took Scott and gave him, like, 16 eyes and made him, like white or whatever.
Sure.
I don't know. Well, Stark white, not like white. He is white.
There's only so much. I mean, again, I don't think, to me as an X-Men reader, there's been no build-up for such a big change like that in Krakoa, whereas, since I don't read the main Eternals line, but I've heard it's good, I think there's probably been more build-up there for an event like this for the Eternals to have a big change. So I think logically, even though I totally get you, like, who cares about the Eternals? But some people do, and they should. There's lots of cool shit with the Eternals mythology. But yeah, like, the X-Men just weren't set up for that yet. So
yeah, but it's not just Ajax. Also, they killed what's her face now, Cersei. So
yes, they did, which is definitely a bigger change. But what is interesting too for the X-Men is that even though, like, no major person was killed permanently, because people died, they were brought back. That's what happens, in case you guys are wondering and haven't read this for some reason and you trust what Lisa and I say. The Celestial ends up, saying, here, Ajax, blah, blah, blah. Ajax takes over. They bring back everybody. So everybody's like, woohoo, yay. We do see the Eternals apologize in front of, like, the world nations and publicized TV, because we see the camera where Eternal Zuras is the speaker. So he's the Prime Eternal is what it's called. So he's the one kind of speaking for all of them, and public apologizes to Storm, who represents the X-Men, obviously, and Kurt. I love him. Look, he's a big leader, man. He deserves it. He's the best.
Oh my god. I love how he's bending down, like he's bending the knee to Storm. It's like, yeah, bend the knee, bitch. Exactly. She's your queen now. Ajax is a god, whatever. She can go fly around, but Storm is queen. So,
well, see, this is why you need to read X-Men Red, because she rejected being called a queen recently. She does not want to be called a queen. She just wants to take care of her shit.
Well, listen. She is a queen, but she's not the queen, because she's absolutely. I'm a regal bitch, but I don't want the responsibility. That's
Amen. She is right there. Listen, same. I want none of the responsibility, none of the accountability. Just getting my shit done and minding my business. But yeah,
literally.
so Zuras apologizes without reservation for the war of the mutant people, and they offer a treaty of alliance. And they also offer the people of Araco, specifically the weapon that was used against them, Uranos, for an hour to do with what you will. To my knowledge, we don't see what that looks like, so I don't know if that's going to happen in X-Men Red or not, but I'm kind of like, what are you guys going to do with a weapon? Like, are you guys going to go, like, start a war with another planet or something? Like, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, just mind your business.
So, like, I have a feeling that eventually, I mean, I think this is something in the back pocket. I don't think this is something that's going to happen right away. It might be something that is saved for a later story. I mean, let's be real. I don't know that the Iraqi and the Earth mutants are always going to be peaceful together. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's going to be, I feel like there might come a time where the Iraqi are like, stop sending your people to fucking rule us. Like, stop sending your people to us to rule us, because we've ruled ourselves for this fucking long. So stop sending people over here like Magneto and Storm and whatever. They're not us. They don't get to be us.
Again, with this event though, like within the X-Men Red book and such, there has been some changes there where Storm's assuming another role, I think, again. Like, Storm is like the figurehead and the person of Iraqi. Like, she's all over there. So as long as she maintains the order there, I think they'll be fine. But the second Storm loses that order, or she says, fuck it, or somebody, like, gets her out of the way or distracts her from what she needs to do, then, yeah, like, it's all hands. Yeah, everybody's going to be jumping around, like you said. But,
well,
yeah.
Druig is now sharing a cell with Uranus. I'm just going to call him that.
Honestly, yes. And honestly, I love this punishment because he's just stuck there. And so he goes, let's see what Uranus can do with the next 1,000 years or so. I love that Druig's being punished for 1,000 years. So much better than death. So much better than multiple deaths. It's just
1,000 years or so. You know what I mean? So, and like, they can't kill him and bring him back because they'd have to kill a human to do that. And now that the humans know that the Eternals do that, it's not a good thing.
Right. Well, so yeah, Zuras says that basically, I'm not worried about you guys having some DNA with deviants, whatever. You're not deviants in the way that counts, blah blah blah. So that's settled. That's all good.
I love the little scene with Kurt, with them getting pelted with, it looks like tomatoes and cans. Mm-hmm. And Kurt's like, you'll get used to it. It's like, I've been hated my whole life. Don't worry. Like,
yeah, he's like, I'm fucking used to shit. And of course, Star Fox is like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, people go like, wow, you're hot shit, man. And now it's like, yeah, get in line. Like,
I do believe that this is kind of like the opposite of a conversation they had previously in the series, which I did not go back and reread, of course, because God forbid I prepare myself for these podcasts. But I believe that they had an earlier conversation where Kurt was talking about something and like about being loved, and Star Fox is like, oh, get used to it. You're going to be loved after this. And guess what? It went the opposite way. And people still hate the mutants, but they'll live with them because the mutants are going to do good by certain ones. As why don't you talk about what happened next with the Phoenix? What's it called again? The Phoenix
Foundation.
Foundation. Yep. Yes.
So I actually really love this. I wouldn't have thought of this at all, but I think it works really well, especially for Jean's character. And I think I'll give her a chance to shine again, kind of like she did with, the 2018, I think it was, X-Men Redline that Tom Taylor wrote, where she's more of a leader and she gets to stand out without being in somebody else's shadow. This is a good opportunity. So she decides that with this, the Phoenix Foundation, it'll be a body independent from KRAKOA, which means she will be the one personally scanning for those who are selected for immediate backup and recovery. So she is going to start, even though they still have to prioritize, bringing back their mutants. She is going to start also helping on her own bring back humans, which, I mean, that's huge. That can impact every single book in Marvel. Potentially. That's not just an X-Men change. That can, again, if we see like a human hero die in an Avengers book, they can just cry out, the other Avengers alive can cry out to Jean and be like, Jean, we need you to move them up the queue. Like, this is wild.
I'm gonna need them to bring back Miss America and the Wizard immediately, because I need them both back. I don't know why I love them so much, but I do love them so much. Probably because of the connection that they fake connection they have to Pietro and Wanda, but I just love Miss America and the Wizard. However, okay. On paper, the Phoenix Foundation sounds great. On paper. But you know what it really reminds me of? It really reminds me of the college admission scandal that happened a couple years ago with Aunt Becky and Felicity Huffman. Do you remember that? So,
yeah, but how is it like that?
Okay. So basically, for those uninitiated on the college admissions scandal, what it was the college admissions. So the way college admissions works, and I'm going to explain this really quickly, and I don't even know if I'm going to explain it well because it's my understanding is tenuous about it, but I get the point. Basically, the way college admissions work is they admit people based on merit, but then they do have spots that are like available for certain like affirmative action and for like certain minorities or underprivileged people to come in and have those slots. And what the admission scandal was they were taking advantage of like an athletics loophole and to get these really, really rich kids who had no actual, on paper, they had nothing. Like there was no reason that they should be allowed to have this spot, but they would use athletics and be like, oh, actually, she's a freaking amazing rower. So here's a picture of her rowing, and take a look at that, and then suddenly they're in, but they don't actually, they're getting it on these merits that are baseless, rather than people who are underprivileged and deserve that spot. So that's what I'm worried about happening here. There are too many people on Krakoa who are money minded, who I could see trying to get their whole hand, like Shaw, for example, get their fingers in the Phoenix Foundation pie, number one. And number two, it just becomes like, once the wealthy find out that, there's this, that now the mutants are making it available to everybody, they're going to find ways to circumvent the Phoenix Foundation and get on the list that they don't deserve. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, is like, on paper, brilliant. In execution, there's a lot of drama that could come out of it.
Well, of course, but that's why when Jean is the spearhead, and to our understanding at the moment, it could change, but she is the one that gets the final say on everything. It's separate from KRAKOA. She does what she wants. It's essentially a separate charity that she runs on her own. It's like Emma Frost having her own business. Like, nobody can fucking touch that shit. Second thing, she does say that she is going to prioritize the vulnerable, the weak, the poor, and those whom the world has abandoned. Knowing Jean, I believe her. You're right, other people can try to meddle, but they're going to fucking lose, because even Shaw, according to Scott, said, who can object to sick kids being prioritized? They'd be a monster. Shaw is in on this, too. Shaw knows about it. Shaw is down with it. Now, again, that can become nefarious down the road, I'm sure. There can definitely be drama, but the thing is that it's a good start.
The fact that Shaw commented on it tells me that like the wheels are turning in his head and how he can figure out how to make a profit off of it. Like, it's just
but he's not in the business. He'd have to basically invest in Jean's charity, and it's also not for profit. So how do you invest in something that's not for profit?
Well, the thing is the profit comes from the rich people that are paying to have their family members or whomever come back. Or
Jean won't allow that. Somebody would have to start something and get Jean out of the picture, which would also be incredibly shady.
Yeah, the thing is like, I'm not saying that anything is going to happen. I'm saying that there's a possibility for it, and I'm actually I'm really interested to see if it goes in that direction somehow, because the possibility is there, and it's so. And again, it's the reason I go back to the college admission scandal is like, this is stuff that happens in our real life all the time. So it's not, and when and we're talking about college admissions, we're just talking about college. Now imagine it's a life or death. There's no way people are not going to try and take advantage of it and circumvent it and find their way. And I really hope to see like that in the stories coming up.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see drama there. It's going to be a lot of people trying to find ways to get involved and play nice with Jean to, get her to, let them be involved, and then they take advantage. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think more than anything, I'm less, because drama's going to happen. So I'm not really worried about that. My main concern is, how do you judge someone? Because again, this is Judgment Day, this whole event. How do you judge who is the vulnerable, the weak, the poor, and those whom the world has abandoned? How do you decide who is more poor, quote, than someone else? How do you decide who has been more abandoned than, there's all these, the judgment here is going to be the problem to me. Like, to me, that's what I'm excited to see. I don't disagree with you. Again, the drama is going to happen. But I think a lot of the drama is going to happen when people say, hey, my kid's been abandoned for 10 years. Why did this kid get, brought back sooner? And then they're like, well, my kid just died from cancer and it was terrible. We wanted back. Like, there's just, oh my gosh. Like,
it's funny.
So many problems there.
It's so funny because there is a real life like metaphor or simile for this, or if that's the right word, which is organ transplantation. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what gets somebody on the list? What gets them to the top of the list? Why does this person get it and not that person? Like, going back to the whole addict thing we were talking about earlier, if Jean has the opportunity to bring back like a teenager who died of an addiction, is that a better idea than bringing back a teenager who died of cancer? Because if you bring back the addicted teenager, are they just going to be an addict again? It's and again, I'm not saying this as a judgment at all. I'm just talking about, in like, these are the thought processes that go through like your decisions as far as organ transplants. So there's just so many similarities in those things.
Yeah, I think that's a really good analogy as well. It's like, how do you decide those things? How do you decide who is worthy? How do you make judgment? Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm interested to see what this event does for the future, because I feel like this has set the tone for a lot of future stories going forward. If they, if the, editorial team and all that does the right thing and helping to guide and flourish these creator stories. But all that said, the event ends with this nice dialogue, watching, Celestial Ajax walking around, and the last few panels say, judgment is ongoing. Your mistakes are cumulative. You should remember that every day when you wake in the morning, perhaps today is the day the species goes too far and the earth is doomed. Act accordingly. Every day is judgment day. And it ends with Celestial Ajax holding her thumb, getting ready to judge, but not actually judging. So I think it was a pretty good ending. I mean, again, this definitely wasn't a hugely life-shattering event, but I'm kind of glad it wasn't, because I don't want life-shattering right now. I'm so tired. I don't need whiplash.
No, I agree. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, there was a Doctor Who episode with Christopher Eccleston, where at the end nobody died, and he has this moment where he's like, everybody lived for the first time. Everybody lived, and it's such a celebration and such a beautiful episode. And I felt like that at the end of this, because when they brought back all the people who died, it was like everybody lived. No, I mean, except for what's his face, Arjun, I think his name was, the guy who died because of Celestial. I mean, R.I.P. But everybody else came back. Everybody survived, and that was beautiful. But Ajax makes a good point at the end. It's just, or I'm sorry, Ajax Celestia makes a good point at the end. So it's cumulative, and what that says to me is, like, we as a society, all of us have to work to, like, you need to make sure every decision you make in the day, like every day, every decision you make has to have a positive outcome, or has to at least lend to something, to positivity. You know what I mean? Like, don't go online and like call someone an asshole on Twitter, unless they're being an asshole. But no, even then, like, don't be dicks to people. Don't be rude. There's really no reason. Everything should always be positivity and happiness, and not toxic positivity. There's hard things in this world, but when it comes down to it, there's no reason to add to the hard things in the world, right? Like, let the hard things exist, but what your contribution should be happiness and positivity. And I agree with that.
Yeah, I think number one, if you enjoyed the Judgment Day event, or at least the concepts of like, hey, what is judgment, and how do we determine these things like that, you should definitely watch the show The Good Place, as you're listening, if you haven't.
Oh,
it's only like 3 or 4 seasons, and it ended on its own terms. The writers wanted it to end, then they finished the story. It's a phenomenal show. It really looks into a lot of the stuff as well, and kind of like Lisa's talking about with the, judgment is cumulative. It's, you do this, it subtracts, you do this, it adds back up. But the more everybody does good together, the more everybody moves up. Right. And yeah, these concepts are super interesting. I love that this has been explored in this way. I hope to see these concepts further explored in each individual line, even if I don't read them, whether it's the Eternals are exploring these themes more, whether it's the Avengers, whether it's the X-Men. I don't care. I just want to see them more explored, because I think this is a great way to, add more layers to these characters that some we've had for, 60 plus years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's refreshing in a lot of ways.
And of course, Kurt was amazing in it. I mean,
oh my gosh, that's what I was going to say. I forgot for a second, but you said Kurt and I remembered. I really like seeing some people get the spotlight that they don't always get, including some of the Eternals, including not really any other Avengers other than Tony and Steve. So that was kind of disappointing, to see not other people get the spotlight. But yeah, Kurt, oh my gosh, Kurt is a huge centerpiece now, not only in the X-verse, but the Marvel-verse. So in case y'all didn't know, Kurt is the answer.
Kurt, hashtag Kurt is the answer. Oh my God. That's like the second or third hashtag we came up with today. Hashtag Kurt is the answer. I love it.
I love it too. I mean, it's super important. Listen, I know it might sound a little culty. It doesn't need to be, because even Kurt would not have a problem, jumping on the hashtag trends. It's for a good cause and all that great stuff. And he has a great cause. And we got real Kurt throughout this event, which is amazing. So I hope we see more Kurt. I think that's a big takeaway. Since we are a Nightcrawler pod, I know we didn't talk about him a lot this episode, y'all. But he was great in this event. So if you didn't read this event and you're a Kurt fan, I don't know what the hell you're doing. You should read this event, like, ASAP.
Oh, 100%. Totally agree. Read it. You're going to love every second of Kurt, because he is literally the hero of heroes. I mean, he doesn't do as much in the last issue, but he's the reason that they got to where they're at. So thank you, Kurt. Thank you from the world. Thank you for saving us. You're amazing. We love you.
Hashtag thank you, Kurt. Hashtag simply amazing, Kurt. You're welcome.
Hashtag simply amazing Kurt. Well, guys, thanks for joining us again for talking about this beautiful Judgment Day. Hopefully there won't be another one soon, because, everyone deserves a vacation. They all need to go and relax. Like, they live on a gorgeous island. Go to the beach. Enjoy. Like, please, put your feet up. Put your tail up. Enjoy.
Mood.
Have a good time. Yes, exactly. So thank you guys for joining us again. We always love talking about Kurt. Obviously, we've been doing it now for like close to 70 weeks, I think, or 60 weeks. I don't know. It's been a long time, but we are enjoying it. We're going to keep going until there's no more to talk about, which I don't see happening in the foreseeable future. So we're going to be here for a while.
There's always more Kurt. Always more Kurt. Make room for Kurt. Hashtag.
Make room. That's like, oh my God, like Jello. He's like,
yeah.
So if you want to find us, if you want to follow us, please find us on our, we have a website with all of our socials. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube-ish, kind of, we're on Twitch. So find us at simplyamazingpod.com. We will be doing a live soon. We keep talking about it. Watch the Twitter. We'll be doing a live. We're going to be giving away a hand-signed copy of Excalibur #1 by the Chris Claremont. And I have a fabulous Chris Claremont story I can't wait to tell you. So we're going to talk about that at our live, which is coming up soon, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Before Thanksgiving, let's say that. Before Thanksgiving, we're going to have a live. I'm putting it out there. I'm making it official. Before Thanksgiving, we'll have a live.
That means y'all listeners, hold us to it. If we don't do it before Thanksgiving, or like the week before Thanksgiving, you haven't heard about it, yell at us on Twitter, please, God, because we want to keep our word. I swear, we fully intend it.
Yeah, we've been talking about this live for like weeks now, and we keep not having the time to do it, but we're gonna do it, I promise, because I have this Chris Claremont issue just sitting there waiting to be given away. Come find us on Twitter, Facebook, all those things. Lauren, where can they find you, girl?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at friendlymBHDBI. You can find my other YouTube channel there where I talk about a lot of indie comics, things like that. And yeah, otherwise, come around, come for the Kurt rants and thirst. And, if you're into it, stay for the Supergirl thirst and me making a fool of myself, because I do that too.
And if you're back out there right now and you're thinking to yourself, am I doing good today? Am I doing bad today? You know what? Every day you are simply amazing.